Hello. Hello, my beauties. We are here. We are live. Let me see. We had some technical difficulties, as always, so we are a little late from the planned schedule. Yay! It's great. So, let's get going, shall we? The Sovereign Masterclass is a big one for me. This has been brewing a long time, at least a year, I would say. And there is a lot to be said about the process that led me here. Let me just check one thing. I'll be right back. Yay! This is my first time doing a YouTube live, so I have to check everything. I had to check I have sound, I have everything. That is why it took me an extra hour, because this is something I've never done, and I've used streaming platforms before, but this has been different. But here we are, and the Sovereign Masterclass. This is about how I wish the world would see discipline and personal power. This is how I see it. And I'm gonna start with the story about me. I've been doing the things about and around business for almost 10 years. I've been a coach for a long time. And before that, I was a soldier. I was in the Finnish Air Force as a volunteer. And around those times, I was also a fitness athlete. So I've been doing some hard things for the longest of time. And the reason, not the only reason, but one of the reasons I did those things was because I lived in a shadow of a very, very powerful, very strong, both mentally and physically strong parents. I was weak if you compared to them. And I did compare myself to them. My father in particular, he is where I have my entrepreneurship roots, my business roots. He is the one who showed me that it's possible to work for yourself. And he's the one that showed me that I could be an athlete. He's the one who showed me that I could survive in the army. I followed his footsteps a lot. On some level, that strength and power he had was due to being able to push everything aside. And by everything, I mean emotions that bubble underneath. He was extremely capable of handling and surviving hard situations. He was the rock of my family for the longest of times. And while I never witnessed him crumbling, I always saw only strength in him. I knew I would never be able to be that way. And I also felt that having powerful, strong father figure kind of made me crave to have a more softer one in that sense. He was not absent in that sense. He was not cold, as I would say. He was strong and powerful, and his ability to hold and to carry hard things made him that. He was extremely strong, and he had power over his actions. And that power was not something that I felt I could have, because I believe that it was something you inherited. It was something you had or didn't have as growing up and by birth. Because by comparison, I was no match. I would never be that strong. I would never be able to go through, nor would I probably have to go through the things that he had to, and both of my parents had to. So I kind of felt that I wasn't strong because I didn't fit in to that picture of strength. His ability to push away everything was extraordinary, but I would never grow up to know how to do it. And I think that was one of my saving graces in life, is that I realized that it wouldn't be my path. The Sovereign Masterclass came to be because I realized that I wouldn't have to. And I haven't done that. I haven't grown into be someone who is not capable of both feeling and having power. Because for me, power is not violent, it's not aggressive. And personal power, or discipline, as I also like to call it, is the ultimate power over yourself, really. If you can manage your actions to a conscious goal and sustain it, you can achieve anything. But the reality of that is that the goals we most likely have are difficult to achieve. Why else would they be goals or dreams if they were easy? Some of them are small. I have small dreams too, but I also have big ones. And I know that if I want to achieve them, there's going to be hard things on the way. And I don't mean it's going to be just hard and unpleasant. But I know that greatness comes with great things. Great things meaning great emotions, both the ones that feel amazing and the ones that feel awful. So this masterclass is about how to have power and still be present, how to have focus and feel it all. That is the basic thesis of this masterclass. And I have scheduled 3 days and 2 Finnish extra days for my Finnish people. And the reason being is that I feel that some of the things that we discuss here are culture related. And I can only speak for my culture, my bloodline, my family. And my roots are in Finland. And those roots have given me a perspective that I need to share in my own mother tongue. So the last 2 days next week will be in Finnish. I will do my very best to have subtitles on them, so my English people, English speaking people can understand them too. But that is going to remain to be seen next week. But I have divided more or less these days under topics, under themes that kind of navigate this subject of personal power from different perspectives. The first one is what we're going to talk about today, which is the biggest part of this, our emotions, the regulation and digestion of them, EQ, emotional intelligence, empathy, and all of those things that are not usually taught in containers that teach self-leadership, power, and discipline. But that is the key why this masterclass is so different. The next theme is the decision-making process, commitment, and all of that. The actual decision and how much power that holds itself. So that is going to be day number 2. And day number 3 is going to be the actual action part of this. From goals to dreams to decisions and to action. That is the key here. So the last English day is going to be about taking action, self-leadership. And I can't wait for those. It's going to be epic. But today is all about emotions. And I would dedicate a lot more days and hours for this topic. But I wanted to keep this container somewhat, well, not short, but somewhat neat and tidy. And you will hear me talk about different courses within this masterclass that are upcoming soon, because I have more expansive containers about these topics on their own. Some of them are brand new, some of them already exist, but everything you need, I will provide about those. So let's begin, shall we? Let's take a deep breath. In all honesty, I've been feeling kind of iffy the past few days. I have had some discomfort. It's my cycle related. And I often have pains during at least half of the time of my hormonal cycle as a woman. So I have been in discomfort, but I feel that discomfort has been a gift even, because it kind of stopped me overthinking of what I'm gonna say here today. It is easy to ruin a good, an amazing or great energetic container such as this by overdoing it, overthinking, over planning, over strategizing it. And this container has been very kind of discreet. I haven't talked about a lot of it. You have seen me market it, you have seen me talk about it, but you haven't really seen me sell it like that. And by sell, I mean push it. And it was intentional. I wanted this to be kind of a surprise to all of us, what would be in it. And the things that I wanted to talk today about are not simple. And the words I use to describe them and talk about them and have this conversation are crucial. Because language is difficult around this. There are no feminine words to describe power with. Not yet, anyway. So today, we're gonna find some. The emotional intelligence is extremely important in life. I think it would be even more important than any of the other forms of intelligence that are being measured. Because how you receive, how you hold, how you manage and regulate your emotions is everything. It is your life, essentially. And that power that comes from owning, understanding, feeling your emotions is the key, and here's why. Because if you can trust yourself to be able to handle everything that you experience as a human, every single emotion, you can trust yourself with everything. And if you can trust, then your word is law. And if your word is law, you create new reality by speaking and thinking. So it is not the thinking that is in charge of the emotions. It is not the rational side of you, but it's the other way around. Your emotions control your thoughts, not only by invoking thoughts when you have an emotion, but also how you create new reality about those emotions by the language and your mind. You understand? And I understand this is tricky. But I can give you an example. For example, I'm a woman. I'm PMS. I have emotions. I feel just random sadness. The people who have a menstrual cycle and menstruate, you know how it is the week before you start bleeding. For me, it is very, very emotional time. And sometimes I'm just sad when that happens. Being sad about nothing and everything at the same time. And if I would think about that sadness as a negative thing, as a destructive thing, if I would be annoyed that I'm sad or shameful that I'm sad, it would create more emotion, more negative feedback. And the loop just goes on. Because then again, I would be angry about that shame. I shouldn't feel shame that I'm sad. So instead of feeling sad, I would feel shame, anger, disappointment. And it somehow, some way becomes harder to manage and regulate because all of that layer, and you did that with your thoughts, but it started with the emotion. It can also be created the other way around. You can create sadness by thinking sad things. But that is different mechanism. And you know, because the sadness feels different. The emotional response is different. If you invoke sadness by watching a sad movie, it's just sadness. But if it starts with the sadness, you build on layers on it, and those become impossible to regulate. It is so hard to dig deep and see the actual sadness beneath them and not feel everything that you have built on top of it. And why this is key with personal power is that this is an antithesis for discipline, basically. Because if you feel the sadness and you build on top of it, it would be so hard to push through that. All of the shame and anger, it will consume you. and you won't be able to act. You won't be able to go where you want to go. The way you take those steps, they become so much slower and heavier. Have you ever felt this? Have you ever made yourself quit because something uncomfortable came on your way? How many times have you quit something because something minorly inconvenient or uncomfortable came on your way and you made it huge? Because the moment you start something and the first time you feel like this isn't gonna work, like I can't do this, like no, no one cares, no one wants me, no one wants to date me, no one wants to hire me, no one wants to buy from me. You quit because you took it as a sign of something greater, because of the emotion, and you quit. And this is the part that I thought that I missed as growing up. I thought that this right here, the emotional part, was something that I needed to discard. I need to remove it. I needed to somehow lose it in order to have personal power and discipline and to go for the things that I want to do. And this is the part that is actually very disempowering. This part of the masculine paradigm of discipline that is, you cannot feel if you want to do. If you want to be great, you cannot have emotions, which is not realistic. It's non-existent. If you have no emotions, then you take away from the part that is actually human. It is not real or realistic. It is not real to think that you are a thinking creature. And this is the thing we're going to talk about tomorrow, about the decision making. We're not thinking decision makers. We're feeling decision makers. And that is something you cannot remove. You cannot push it aside. You cannot grow away from it. The only thing you can do with the emotions that actually inflict and have effect on how your life is going and what you're doing is to feel them. Emotions are responses from the environment, real and unreal. The actual physical reality and the one you make up in your mind. And you cannot remove those. It's not the solution to try to fight against them, nor is it a solution to try to talk yourself away from those feelings. You cannot explain to yourself why you shouldn't be sad when you're sad. It just, no. Have you tried? I have. I thought that that was gonna be the way, but it's not. So what I need from the world is to shift away from the masculine paradigm of discipline, self-leadership and power to a feminine one, which welcomes the emotions with loving arms. Because while there are responses, there are also signals. And that doesn't mean that you should give every single emotion a meaning. It's not the same thing. If you give meaning to every time you feel sad, to the sadness, that this is a sign from the God, universe, the creator, that I shouldn't be doing this. This is wrong. This is not where I'm supposed to be. You stop for the first time you feel sadness. How many times have you done that? Stopped something amazing from happening because you thought that your emotions were a meaningful signal that you weren't supposed to be doing it. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it is. Sometimes you feel that this isn't right. Sometimes you feel that it's not meant to be. And that intuition is different. That is wisdom from your body that you shouldn't disregard. But right now I'm talking about emotions that become from the human experience alone. And why I want this shift is because I want you to feel empowered. I really do. I want you to feel like you can do anything, you can hold anything and everything, and you can be with everything, that you never again have to run from your emotions and try to fit into a mold that is not human. That you never again have to feel like you don't have power over yourself because you feel. And how do we regulate that? How do you feel, essentially? And how do you turn that into personal power? The thing I told you earlier about layering emotions on thoughts and then labeling them again with another emotion is something you can do to constructive feelings as well. If you feel happy, if you feel joy, something made you laugh wholeheartedly, like actually from the stomach, you can have thoughts about those feelings too. You can slap on a meaning on them as well. Because I am joyful, this is where I'm meant to be. And I feel grateful for being able to feel joy in this moment, in this world. And you can feel happy that you feel this gratitude, that you felt this joy. You can expand on the feelings. And why this is important skill is because if you want to take the next level of you as a goal, to uplevel your ability to attract amazing things, it is this skill that you need. Because on the next level, not only the things are going to be greater, not only the opportunities, everything. It's not only that. It's also the losses, difficulties, the most uncomfortable things. Because greatness goes all ways. It is negative and it is positive. And you will feel all that on the next level. And if you cannot handle it, the next level after that won't come. If you cannot hold everything, both good and bad, and neutral, and everything in between, the void, the next level won't come. So I want you to take a second, take a moment to understand that you are not fighting against your body here. You are not fighting against yourself. But with yourself. You are expanding your ability to feel when you are expanding altogether. So, emotional regulation as a woman is complex. How you digest your emotions is complex, especially as a woman with a hormonal cycle of around 28 days, because every day is different. Every day is different. Because it is different, and it is something you are probably not been preparing yourself for. And also, it is the reason why women fight this the hardest. Lord knows I did. I thought that doing the most intensely masculine hard things would make me powerful. And not in the eyes of others even, but just for me. It would make me have power over myself. It would give me the ability to force myself to do harder, longer, better. And it didn't. It really didn't. Because the reality of doing hard things is that those hard things show you why they're hard, why not many people do them. It's what I realized in the late nights in military service, when the people who are supposed to have your back and they don't. When your body gives up on you, when something breaks and it hurts and you feel like you don't belong. It is where the mind comes at play. And the sensations, the emotions, the feelings that go through your body when you do hard things can make or break you. Because I want there to be a world where you don't have to push them aside. I want you to be able to look at them face to face, everything that comes up, every single thing, without judgment, without labeling, without building up on it, without making it mean something it doesn't. Because that is something we're great at, finding meaning when there is none. And the great thing about meaning is that you can slap on it everything. You can put meaning into things and you can take it off because it is created in your mind. And the emotions that bring you to on your knees, that feel like the world is collapsing, that you can handle it because you can. If I could, then you can. How do you digest your emotions? The step 1 is to stop labeling them, as we've discussed. Step 2 is to sit with them, listen to them. I have come to realize by doing a lot of trauma work, mental health work, spiritual work around healing, is that it is difficult. And not only that, but it is the most uncomfortable thing you will probably do, is to sit with the things that come up from your own physical being. At some point, you might realize that the things that come up are no longer yours. They can be from someone else. As a woman, I feel that most of the things that come up nowadays come from the time where I was not even existing. I was not a human being yet, because I know the history of my bloodline. And I know that I can feel things for at least 2 generations back. Because while my grandmother was being pregnant with my mother, I was also in there. I was the egg within the egg. And so were you. So you can feel what they felt. And it is sometimes hard. At least for us in this generation. There has been some hideous things. And it is also in cultural context, which is something we'll discuss in the Finnish days next week. So the step 1 was to sit with them. And sitting doesn't mean literal sitting necessarily. It means that you feel them and you let them out in a way that they need to be let out. Because anger doesn't necessarily move through you if you're just sitting. It might not come out as tears. It might come out as a scream, as words, or as maybe punching back. But trust that the wisdom is in you when you do this. And trust that this will give you eternal power. Because a person who can sit with everything has the most power over their future and the next generations. If you can feel the greatest pain without falling, without giving up, without you can do anything. Can you see this trail of thought? So if you can learn to be your emotions and be with them, to move them so that they are free to go when they are. You can do anything. And this is just for now. You can start by looking at the points in your life when you pushed something aside, when you felt an emotion and you couldn't deal with it. You pushed it aside. What are the situations you do that in? I've coached a lot of people. Some of them do that in relationships, in romantic ones. So I would start with those. That is the most common one I see. That when we feel discomfort of maybe the intimacy level in our relationships, we run away. You push people aside because they are the manifestation of the emotion that you felt, and you associate that with them. So if you cut a person out of your life, you think you will cut the emotion out of your life. But imagine, as a healing human being that you are, an amazing, great woman to be, at least, a powerful woman to be, at least, that the person that you wanted to have your life with and spend it with, the person who did something probably unrelated to anything, triggered you. He showed you something that is not yet healed, something from your past or your parents' past or their past or from your childhood or from previous relationships. Imagine how amazing that is. They showed you something that still needs work in a safe manner. But imagine instead pushing them away. Leaving the relationship. Or picking up a fight over something else because you can't really look at the thing that triggered you, or the thing that was the trigger, or the thing that became from the trigger. But if you would be able to do that, you could see what is that thing that still needs healing as a gift, or at least something that is there, something that is real. Because no one else can give you emotions that you didn't have. They are being birthed inside you. You can simulate them, you can invoke them. You can feel sad by watching a sad movie, but you cannot feel sadness if it wasn't there. If you have never felt sadness, then you cannot feel sadness by someone else. So this is the step one. Imagine the person you can be who can handle everything. Imagine and feel and discuss yourself over the things that you usually do this in. It can be a relationship, but it can also be your business. It can be your career. It can be your children that mirror back the most. It can be your parents, siblings, social media, or everything. This is the most empowering part of this masterclass. This is the basis for what we discuss tomorrow and the day after that. So these 3 days, I want you to remember these. All the things that we discussed today. Because it is not easy task. Sitting with something without naming it, without judging it, without trying to push it away. Emotions is what we are. This bag of flesh and emotions and mind. And we'll discuss all of those with this. But the personal power in the new paradigm has one step extra of what we usually think it is. Because like I said, this was emotions. The second day is decisions, commitment. Day 3 is action, leadership. It is usually this step, these thoughts, this understanding of this first day that we disregard when we think about discipline. We only talk about taking action and committing. We only talk about motivation, self-leadership, action, commitment. But none of that really matters if we cannot face what is to come. So if my goal is to have a great business, to have something extraordinary built, have a legacy in my business that is still there when I'm gone, it's going to take me to places with myself that are difficult to look at. And those are places that normal person would not dare to go. A person without this dream would never go there. It would force you to look at who you are and if your legacy is worth persevering for. If what you can give good enough. Is it real? Is it authentic? Is it there? Or are you faking it? Does your legacy deserve to be preserved? Is it a good for the people, for the world? Is it good for you, for the people around you? Or is it not? You cannot have a great legacy if you are not healing. Because otherwise the things that you are trying to be better for, if you're trying to do something better than someone else or the people who became before you, you only have to be that much better. You can still have a legacy of awful things if you choose that. So having a great dream requires you to look to the things that you don't want to look. Keep this in mind. Before we move on to the next day and tomorrow. And during this time, these 24, a little less hours, I want you to feel. And not only the things that come up right now, but I want you to look, contemplate, think about the things that you would not want to look. What is the dream And what are the monsters between you and it? What are the monsters that have stopped you so far? Why aren't you further ahead? What is the monster that scares you the most? Because you built that monster. You gave birth to that monster, so to speak. You are it. And there is no real power without true honesty. That is why every time you have seen me talk about this masterclass, there has been a little mirror icon in my posts and texts. Because everything that is on your way is you. And this doesn't mean that you are fighting against you, but it is you versus you. It is not to kill the past versions or to force the new versions into existence, but it is to be everything, to feel everything. And if you can handle this, if you can handle whatever is going on, if you can handle all the emotions, even without knowing where they come from, if you feel a trigger and something bad from your past, you don't have to know where it comes from. This is just step one. Emotions. Being with them, no matter what they are. And not making it seem like it's something else. Because we are good at running away. I know you can quit. You don't have to give me proof that you can quit and stop and give up. But I do need proof that you can sit with your emotions. You need to be able to trust yourself with the emotions that are coming. All of them. The good, the bad, the neutral. For the people who are finished speaking today here, there's one thing I want to talk to you about. Because this is something we won't be covering within this module of this masterclass at all. But it is the void. It is the place where there's nothing, where there's emptiness, where you are not the last version of you, but you're still not the next version of you. When you are in growing, so to speak. That is a masterclass called Eternal Expansion. It is going through a revision this year, but it is still available in Finnish. It is about holding everything, both all of it and nothing. So if you need that, the links are everywhere. Tomorrow, when we come back, it's about decisions, commitment, recommitment. How to be certain that you are ready, and how to prepare that your word is law. How to become trustworthy in yourself. How to trust that the actions the masculine in you take, you are able to face them and do them. Because even if you had the ability to stay with all the emotions, be with everything, it might not translate to doing them, to experiencing them. The ability doesn't give you the skill to move forward. It just gives you a rock solid base. It gives you trust, but not action. So what is the fuel in your action is tomorrow's goal with us. Discipline is a hard topic, and I've so very much enjoyed this with you today. I'm gonna give you a recording. This is gonna stay in my YouTube channel if I manage to make that happen. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. Thank you for being here. You are amazing. You're great. You're emotionally wonderful and wonderfully emotional. Tomorrow, talk about the fuel. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye. Mwah.